On this Monday installment of Locked On Texans, we will be joined by our brother Big Sarge as we discuss the Houston Texans free agency, what the Texans should do in the NFL draft, and his thoughts about the departure of Brandon Cooks.
And to tie it all in, we want to develop a great team here that we can deliver wins to the city of Houston. We want to deliver a championship here to the city of Houston, and that's what it'll be about.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to a Monday episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Johnson Sports Guy Hickman, and, of course, I'm joined by none other than Texan Credential Media member and Sports Illustrated writer, Cody Davis. Be sure to subscribe to the Locked On Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Make sure you comment, leave reviews, let us know what we can improve on and how you like the show. Before we talk with Big Sarge, we got to go back somewhere we haven't been in a while, and that's the YouTube comments in those streets of YouTube's. Manny Rice said that the draft order should go like this: quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end. Guys, there is a defensive end that I really like, and I think that he is climbing up a lot of people's draft boards. I think that he is a player that could potentially be gone in the first, but with Houston sitting at 33, Keon White, defensive end from Georgia Tech. He had a great outing during Senior Bowl week. He's powerful, man. He is a raw piece of power, and that's how he wins a lot of reps. I've talked about him before on the show, that when you look at games that really pop off on the screen, you got to go to the North Carolina game where he just completely dominated. And so I like that draft order. And I think this is a draft where you can get linebackers late. But for Houston, quarterback, we talked on yesterday on the Sunday show, like, regardless of how I may feel, regardless of how they may be in contrast of what the front office may feel, I still think quarterback at number 2 is the right way. It should be the only way for the Texans. And then you get the quarterback, somebody to throw the ball to. This is a steal. When I look at this wide receiver room, this isn't it isn't spectacular.
It's still subpar.
It's still subpar, even with the addition of Noah Brown and Robert Woods. And so I like that. QB, wide receiver, defensive end.
I think this might be the first time that all reporters, fans, Texans themselves, hopefully, are all on the same accord, because that's the way I'm looking at this as well. Your first pick should be a quarterback. Your second pick should be a wide receiver. And your third pick, you might as well flip over to the defensive side of the ball and get somebody who can get after the opposing team's quarterback. John, I like the order, and I do believe come the end of April, that is what we're going to see on the first, between the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. That's the order that we're going to see.
Woo Shock, before we close out, Woo Shocks said, good riddance to Cook, and Tunsil was a great move extending him. I 100% agree with that entire statement. However, Sarah McCoy,
your favorite follow,
a better move would have been to trade Tunsil. Sarah has been against Laramie Tunsil since we started with YouTube. Sarah, I don't get it. And I saw a comment where you mentioned the false start penalties and holding. He only allowed 1 sack last year, I believe. If that, Tunsil deserved it, honestly. And when you are a franchise that's been in the position that the Texans have been, you got to, at the very least, keep notable names around. And if you see the Sunshine, Laramie Tunsil is a notable name that when everything gets rolling, he can at the very least be a reason why people watch the game. So, you know what, we can put them. And it's crazy because he's an offensive lineman. The NCAA tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spread, which teams will be cutting down the net, all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your chance at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join, FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Thanks for making the Locked On Texans your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes. From free agency to the draft, salary cap management, and more, join NFL experts Kyle Crabb and Joe Marino as they take you through what it's like to build a successful NFL franchise every Monday through Friday. Find Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Monday installment of Locked On Texans. And as promised, we got our brother, Big Sarge from USA Today. Sarge, what's going on, man? And welcome back.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
I see
you all who can't see this. Go ahead and tell them what I got on, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, he said nostalgia. I say you can't say nostalgia because the man just left, but he has a Houston Texans shirt that represent Lovie Smith as head coach. That was a shirt I believe that they gave us at the start of the 2022 campaign. For those of you who can't see, it say H-Town, and the O for town has the head of a silhouette of Lovie Smith's head with his iconic beard. Unfortunately, we all know that shirt is no longer valuable here in the city of Houston.
I'm just saying, Cody, look, if you were in a relationship, right, and then you and the young lady broke it off, next week, in 7 days, in 7 minutes, she's your ex, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
7 minutes, 7 hours, seven.
But it's still too early, though. Yeah, exactly. But it's still too early. We all been in relationships that we had to break up from, and it takes you a while before you go back and say, I feel like wearing this, or I feel like going back to something we used to do. It takes a while. I mean, you didn't even wait. The man been gone for almost 2 months, and here you are talking about nostalgia with Lovie Smith.
Hey, man, listen, it's a tribute to Lovie Smith, man. That's all I'm going to say is that it's just a tribute, man. It's like, look, as soon as I put this shirt on, you know what I heard in the background?
What?
How do I say goodbye? I'm just saying, man, look, I seen Christian Kirksey got married this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen the IG post from Jonathan Grenard.
I know where you going because I saw it too.
And I seen my guy, man. And I just want to share a thug too. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Okoronkwo?
Well, him too. I seen Jordan Atkins, man.
Oh, yeah.
So, I had to put this shirt back on for, for the good times,
Well, you talk about the good times, nostalgia. You talk about guys, Okoronkwo, Lovie Smith, Jordan Akins. None of those guys are here. However, Nick Caserio, he's been in his bag at the start of free agency as of right now. I think we could all agree that, the Houston Texans, due to the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, that this is probably the best collection of free agents Nick Caserio has had an opportunity to sign. So, Sarge, let's jump right into it. What have been your thoughts and your evaluations of the free agents that Nick Caserio has been able to bring in as of right now?
I read an article the other day on CBS Sports that gave the Houston Texans and general manager Nick Caserio a B- grade so far as the free agency is concerned. And I would have to agree. I agree with that. Because what he has done is he's starting to fill a need, and he's not just bringing in bodies. He's bringing in some capable bodies that can fill a spot and fill a need for a first-year head coach, a first-year coaching staff, all these additional and these new pieces as far as the coaching staff is concerned to build, some type of foundation for going forward. So the free agents that he went out and got a lot of what I feel like is talent. Now, there's some people who, and I said this on my podcast, a lot of people are concerned about the 1 year and 2 year deals, but it's a good fit. And what I mean by a good fit is that, when Nick Caserio is bringing them in on these short-term deals, it's a tryout, it's a tryout period, period for the Texans, but also for the player as well. Because the Texans need to see if this guy fits into their system and maybe sign him long-term, or the player needs to see if he wants to be in this culture, because we are still so excited behind the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, and we're excited about, what Nick Caserio is doing and what DeMeco Ryans is doing as far as changing the culture. But, there's still a time frame and a time period where the Texans are going to have to prove it to some of these players on the outside and some of these future free agents that they have changed and moved on from the David Culley era, from the Deshaun Watson. I'm talking about his last season here from that era, even from, my guy whose shirt I have on right now, even from the Lovie Smith era. They have to prove to these free agents that this is a place. The Houston Texans are a team that you want to come and play for. Now, when I look at some of the talent that he brought in, I'm going to say this. Dalton Schultz, I love it. Even though, we just got through talking about Jordan Akins. Side note, Cody. What I don't understand, though, is maybe this is just something that's personal, because I like Jordan Akins, because, like I said, I was there from the day he was drafted, and his first initial interview sounded like he was about to put out a mixtape on Spotify. Cody, if you look at their production, they really are the same tight end. And if Jordan Akins would have had a better quarterback, and that's not a shot at Davis Mills, but we know that Davis Mills wasn't as effective
to that point, I would say we saw what he was able to do with Deshaun, and he looked damn good.
Yes. And so, and now he's back with Deshaun. So, but, I don't understand why the Houston Texans and Jordan Akins couldn't come to an agreement to keep him here in Houston. But replacing him with Dalton Schultz, a person that I've watched, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I've watched a lot of Dalton Schultz, and it's really just it's a plug and play. And with him coming in, it's going to make it better. I like the fact that they brought in Devin Singletary to back up Pierce. That's going to give Pierce a break, and you also getting a running back who can catch out of the backfield, and one who doesn't mind being a third down back if you need him, or someone that's willing to, to give Damian Pierce a breather. Noah Brown is interesting. And the reason why I say he's interesting, because he's another former Dallas Cowboy who I've watched a lot, and he doesn't create a lot of separation, but he does run good routes. And I don't know how much of a safety net or a safety blanket he can be for a rookie quarterback, if that's the direction in which the Houston Texans decide to go. But he is a very comparable piece since you lost Brandon Cooks. Now, I'm going to tell you, we've talked about, Dalton Schultz. We talked about Noah Brown, Devin Singletary, Robert Woods. I like the fact that they got Jimmy Ward, because he knows DeMeco Ryans. He knows the system. He knows exactly what he wants to do. But Sheldon Rankins, when they picked up Sheldon Rankins, I said to myself, they serious about something. Even though they didn't give him a long-term deal, they're serious about putting something together, and they're trying to win right now. Now, I don't know how successful they're going to be, but they're trying to win right now and to put a competitive team on the field. I don't know if we seen that the last 2 years with the last two head coaches, but here's a head coach that if you don't put a competitive product on the field, you're probably going to see him. And what I mean by seeing him is Nick Caserio is probably going to get that, hey, I need to talk to you for a second. Why you not giving me, why I don't have enough groceries to make this meal? So I like what they went out and they've done in free agency.
And with that being said, especially to your point about them putting together a competitive team on the field, I agree with that statement. I also believe that when you take a look at the one thing I've been saying here a lot on the show is the fact that I like how Nick Caserio has went out and gotten veterans, but veterans who can also be productive. The
Yes.
last 2 years, especially in 2021, under the stewardship of David Culley, it seems like they was just signing guys because you needed to make some kind of roster. You needed 53 guys to make a roster, and I believe they had upped the practice squad roster to, I believe, 20, I want to say, because that was also during the COVID year or the back half of the COVID year. So it seemed like they was just signing guys just because you needed it. Last year, it seems like that they was trying to put together a competitive roster, but due to sucking vampire people still around inside NRG Stadium. And no, that is not a shot at Brandon Cooks, ladies and gentlemen. That's a shot at the true vampire that was inside 610 and Kirby at the time. I don't really think that Lovie Smith really had an opportunity. So, Sarge, with your point of them putting together a competitive roster now, do you or do you not believe that the draft plans that the Houston Texans have as of right now, do you feel comfortable if they divert from some of that, what we expecting them to do, i.e., outside of quarterback, i.e., with the number 12 pick, you go out and try to get one of the top wide receivers. With your first pick in the second round, try to boost your defensive line unit. Like, do you think this free agency class is good enough to kind of change the trajectory of the draft?
So, Cody, I was in the Army. So, in the Army, we say, break it down to me like I'm in the 5th grade. So
Mhm.
what you're asking me is, did any of these free agent signings change the mindset of what the Texans want to do going into the draft, right?
Yeah, outside of quarterback, of course, because
Okay,
I think that's a given.
so outside of quarterback, nobody that they sign in free agency should change their draft, whatever their draft board is. Like
Mhm.
once again, I think that the pieces that he went out and got are more than just bodies. I think that they are talented players. Some of these guys I don't feel are franchise players. I don't feel like
Mhm.
they're going to be here for the long haul. And they may be good guys to have in the locker room to help build up, some of these rookies and these second year players. But everybody that he's went out and gotten in free agency, that shouldn't change their draft board at all, because
Mhm.
outside of quarterback, I mean, there's still other holes that need to be filled on that team that they can get in the draft. But not only that, I feel, and this is just my opinion, because the last time I made an opinion on Twitter, I was called leak, inside NRG leak. So let me preface my statement by saying this, Cody. I feel like that what they're going to go and get in the draft is that their draft plans is something that they're looking for towards the future. Now, everybody's going to say, well, Sarge, of course, you're going to get rookies that you want to play for multiple years. No, don't look at it from that aspect. Look at it from when they get these rookies in and keep these rookies on a rookie deal. Now I
Mhm.
feel like Nick Caserio, when he has more cap space, is going to be able to entice some of those bigger name free agents that are going to become available, and he's going to be able to get those type of deals done when he has his rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, when he has the rookie wide receiver on the contract, a rookie contract. That's going to free up the money. These 1 and 2 year deals, some of them, like I said, some of them will stick, some of them won't, and now you have a lot of cap space to play with, and you have money to entice some of these bigger name free agents later on. One of the best things, and we've discussed this before, and you and John have done a great job on this show discussing it, is that they went out and they got a name to help bring some accountability and some credibility to this organization in D'Amico Ryans. Now, if I am a free agent from the Cincinnati Bengals, if I'm a free agent from the Pittsburgh Steelers, if I'm a free agent, a big name free agent from, let's just say, the Carolina Panthers, I'm looking at it as, okay, I've seen what they're done. I've seen what they're doing. I see that they have a coach over there that wants to win and wants to compete. He's done it not only on the field, but off the field as well. They got some money over there. Okay, I don't mind going to play for DeMeco Ryans. I've seen what they've done the last, year or two of putting this franchise together. So that draft board is going to be so vital to what the Texans are going to do in the future.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Monday installment of Locked On Texans. We just finished talking about free agency and the draft, but I think right now Nick Casario's biggest offseason move was re-signing Laremy Tunsil to that max extension. And unfortunately, thug tier for my homie B Cooks. Had to trade B Cooks, and then out of all team to the goddamn Dallas Cowboys. Oh my God, I just don't like that at all.
But wait a minute. Hold on, time out. Hold on. We just finished talking about 2 former Dallas Cowboys that you got to talk to on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but they no longer wearing that dumbass star, and they no longer wearing that ugly baby blue silver that don't even match. And that ugly white, eating all them doves until the playoffs. And
no, then, you know what? That's for your team.
Hey, we fine. Hey, we fine. We steady eating doves. We steady eating doves.
Wait, hold on, man. Hold on. Let's go get sidetracked just for a second. Bro, don't try to throw no shade at the Dallas Cowboys like the New Orleans Saints have just become a contender for the Super Bowl. The New Orleans Aints.
Hey, you can't call us the Aints no more because that joke is no longer valid.
Why?
So with that being said, because that means they was calling us the Aints because they said we would never win the Super Bowl. We got our chip, so you got to throw that old joke away. Unlike y'all. Unlike y'all.
Does this look familiar?
No, in Dallas it does. In Dallas, like you said, wait on it. But you know what? Back to our regular scheduled program already in progress. I ain't gonna cut it out. But SARS, before we start talking about Brandon Cooks, what are your thoughts about Laremy Tunsil, another homie, back in the city of Houston? By the way, please speak on the presence that he brought to this franchise, because unfortunately with me being in Memphis covering the Houston Rockets, I wasn't there in person to take part in Laremy Tunsil's press conference, but when I went back, read the transcript and saw it, this might be the most honest Laremy Tunsil has ever been since he became a member of the Houston Texans.
Well, Cody, I thought that when we first got in there, I spoke with Lindsay and I said, so what are we looking at, about 10 to 12 minutes as far as this?
Yeah, remember we made that joke that morning.
I was like, it's going to be about 10 to 12 minutes, right? I mean, because I think I've already set an appointment for 30 minutes. 30 minutes from the time I get here, I know that I'll be able to make it to wherever I need to make it to, because we know that Laremy doesn't do a lot of talking.
Nope.
He just he says what he has to say and he moves on. But I think that now, and it's going to be funny that I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, could be, the presence of DeMeco Ryans. I don't know, but Laremy was the most transparent that I've seen him in a very long time. And it's so funny, Cody, because I went back and I watched the press conference from training camp where he was like, dog. Dog. Pierce, dog. And I was like, he was giving so many short answers, but during his press conference, he elaborated on a lot of things. He opened up about a lot of things, and it was almost like, was it about the money? Of course. Was it about him being the highest paid tackle for the second time in NFL history? Of course. But to hear him talk about why he wanted to stay in Houston. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, of course he would want to stay here. I mean, they're the only ones that are going to give him the money. No, that wasn't the reason why. Laremy Tunsil really likes the city of Houston. Laremy Tunsil really loves the Houston Texans. And Cody, you and I know this for a fact, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our other colleagues can speak to this. He has a genuine relationship with Titus Howard. He's developing a genuine relationship with Kenyon Green. He has taken both of those players under his wing, like they're his, like Titus is his brother and Kenyon is his little brother. And so it was very important for him to stay here, because I even asked him that question about how instrumental was those two players in particular for you to stay here. And he's like, I love them. I want to be a mentor for as long as I can. I want to be here. He says, I want to leave a legacy like J.J. Watt did. I want to leave a legacy like Andre Johnson. He said, I want to be, recognized like some of the other former players that played here. This is where he wanted to be. Now, with that being said, this is why I believe that the Houston Texans are about to turn it around, and Nick Caserio is going to be the one in charge of leading that along with DeMeco Ryans. They're going to work hand in hand together. You know that if you're going to get a quarterback, a right-handed quarterback, you've got to protect his blind side.
Especially if that quarterback is Bryce Young.
Yes. Or look, CJ, if there's only 2 quarterbacks that I think in this draft that could probably take the hits from the blind side and still kind of be okay. And that's Anthony Richardson and Will Levis because of the way their bodies are built. And hold on, there's one more. Don't laugh at me when I say this, but Stetson Bennett could take that type of pressure, I believe, too. Then again, he is 40, so he got that whole man. But you have to protect with the Houston Texans that I believe are going to draft a quarterback with the number 2 pick this year. You've got to protect their blind side. What better way to show your rookie quarterback that you believe in them than to get one of the top 3? I'm going to say top 3 left tackles in the game. A person who played all the offensive snaps. And that is a big accomplishment coming off the fact that he missed 12 games the year prior because of his thumb?
Yeah.
So to come back and to play all the offensive snaps, to give up only 1 sack, to be the highest rated pass blocking left tackle according to Pro Football Focus in the game, you don't have nothing to worry about. Now you put your rookie quarterback back there and you say, hey, look, no matter what, Laramie got your back, because Laramie takes his job very seriously. I know that a lot of people don't hear him talk a lot. I know a lot of people may have a certain view or outlook on him. He ain't that. He wants to be better, and he wants to win. He's not one of those people. He hates losing just like everybody else does on that team. So what better way of telling your future quarterback, your future franchise quarterback, I got your backside protected at least until 2026. Now, that being said, Laramie Tunsil re-signing and keeping him next to Kenyon Green, because I'm going to go on record by saying this right now, Cody, on your show. Kenyon Green will not have a repeat performance of his rookie year. He's going to come back, and he's going to be better. He's going to be stronger. What it was for him last year was trial by fire. So now you have Laramie Tunsil on the as the left tackle. You have Kenyon Green as your left guard, and he's still mentoring him, teaching him how to play the game, and he comes back with another year under his belt. Earlier in the season, I talked to Kenyon Green about, about being a rookie and going through, especially, and like I said, you and John have talked about this as well, the amount of talent that he went through, that he had to play against, during his
man, that mid-season was, oh my God.
And so Cody, he said, I'm going to get better. He said, I know I'm going to get better. He said, this reminds me of my freshman year at A&M. And then after that, what did he become? 2-time All-American, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he has the work ethic inside of him to get better. And he comes from a family. His father is going to make sure that he gets better. His father's going to work with him. So as I digress, I'm saying that left side of the line for the Houston Texans with the contract extension for Laramie Tunsil, they're solidified.
And with that being said, Sarge, I do want to get your thoughts on the departure of Brandon Cooks. And along those same lines, I also want you to share just your overall thoughts on how surprising that here we are and Brandon Cooks is the one that said, you know what, I'm done with this rebuild. I want out. And Laramie Tunsil is the one that said, I'm all in. I want to continue building something special here in the city of Houston. I only say that because when you go back to this time last year, me and John have talked about this a lot here on the show. You go back to this time last year, we was all starting to think, like, was Laramie Tunsil the next, Pro Bowl caliber, all pro caliber player to walk out the door off of 6'10" and Kirby. And even though Brandon Cooks had just signed his deal, he was the one through a lot of the bad times here in the city. I mean, as a matter of fact, it was nothing but bad times since he got here, continuously say, I want to be here. I want to be a part of something special when we finally get this turned around. And, of course, this question that I'm asking is no shot at Brandon Cooks, because I know you could attest to this as well. And I've already done it last week on my show. Brandon Cooks was damn sure not a goddamn locker room cancer. Please throw that narrative out the way. But with all that being said, it is a little bit surprising knowing that here we are today. Tunsil's still here and Cooks is no longer here.
Well, so with my professional hat on, I'm going to say, wow, I can't believe that he's not here anymore. He was a great guy to cover in the locker room. And just like what you said, he wasn't a quote unquote cancer. I don't know why people keep using that word with him to associate with him. He was not a locker room cancer. And this whole narrative of he didn't want to be here because Jack Easterby didn't want to be here. So with my professional hat on, I'm going to say, it's going to be weird not seeing him after seeing him so many times. Now with my Cowboys fan hat on.
No, please keep this Texans.
And no, I'm just gonna say from a Cowboys perspective, it's great. And you got to give it up to and the reason why I brought up the Cowboys really was because you got to give it up to Nick Caserio to be able to negotiate with the Cowboys and send Brandon Cook somewhere where he wanted to go. Like he sent Brandon Cook somewhere that he wanted to be. You remember they were trying to work out a deal before the trade deadline. Yeah, so he ended up working with him. Now, I'm not surprised that Laramie is here and Brandon is not. Only because the relationship between Brandon Cooks and Nick Caserio soured.
Yeah.
And it soured really quickly. And once again, it had nothing to do with Jack Easterby. On a personal level, I know that Jack Easterby and Brandon Cooks, they're probably really good friends. We know that Brandon Cooks is a devout Christian. Jack Easterby is a devout Christian. And they probably, what connects them is their Christian values, their Christian morals, Bible study. But that isn't why Brandon Cooks didn't want to be here anymore. And if you go back and you listen, because Cody, I went back and I listened to some of the press conferences and locker room press conferences that we've had with Brandon Cooks. And I realized that, and I did not realize that I had asked him 2 times prior about a rebuild before I asked him during the last time he was here when he was cleaning out his locker. When I said, "How are you going to get your mind right, ready for a rebuild?" And he said, "Get my mind right. I'm not going to be here for a rebuild." So when I went back and I listened to some of those the press conferences that we had with him in the locker room talking about a rebuild, it was never because of. Well, no, let me rephrase that. It was always about a competition standpoint, a competitive standpoint. They weren't winning. And at one point, it felt like he was telling us, we're not putting a winning product on the field, and that's because of Nick Caserio is not giving us the competitive players, or he's not bringing in the competitive players, or the players that we have, they're not doing enough to make it competitive. Because all he kept saying was he just wants to win. He just wants to win. And think about it, Cody. Think about the franchises that he played for prior to the Texans. And then he comes here and it's just a cluster. Now all of a sudden he gets thrown into the mix. And not only does he get thrown into the mix, he's a captain. He's a leader in the locker room. And and he's saying to you, I'm going to go out and give you my all. But it just can't be me. It got to be 10 other guys. Or it can't just be me and 4 other guys. What about the other guys? And I will say this. I think that when they didn't get better at the quarterback position, when Davis Mills started to regress, when he regressed, Brandon Mills got more aggravated.
Did you say Brandon Mills? You say Brandon Mills got.
I know. Hey, look, hold on. I did that on purpose. Brandon Cooks. I didn't think he was gonna catch that. I thought I was gonna let that slide through.
No. But what I will say to that point, What I will say to that point, Sarge, you are 100% correct, because the one thing that I always go back to is how much faith and how much trust Brandon Cooks did have in Davis Mills at the beginning of the season. You remember that trip that he orchestrated with Davis Mills, so him and the wide receiving core could get on one accord and stuff. And he trusted Davis Mills, and then unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I was a believer. Davis Mills did regress, and that's part of the reason why we're sitting here a month away from the draft, hoping that the Houston Texans take either Bryce or CJ.
Yes.
But look, overall, man, I understood Brandon Cooks' departure. We talked about the weird mirror between the Rockets and the Texans a lot. And I look at Brandon Cooks the same way I look at Eric Gordon. Both of those guys were down for the rebuild at the start, but the continuous losing, and not only the continuous losing, the foolishness and the unfortunate circumstances that they kept finding themselves in at times with both of those franchises was part of the reason why both Eric Gordon and Brandon Cooks say, you know what, enough is enough. I wanted to go back to a winning organization. And both of those guys, if we being 100, really don't have that much time in their respective sport.
And can I say this real quick, Cody? Even though it was effective for a while, when you look at an NFL team running a 2-quarterback system, that's something you do in high school. That's something you do in college. That isn't something that you do.
When you say college, we talking like Blinn College. Yeah. not Alabama, not LSU, not Florida, like Blinn College,
Yeah. So that's something that you do in college. That's not something that you do in the NFL. And like I said, although he kept them in some games, what do you think that it looks like to a guy who's had 6 1,000-yard receiving
and a guy who played with Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and say what you want about him, this was his best season, Deshaun Watson? That's a big difference.
Right. And now he's looking at Davis Mills and
Jeff Driscoll,
they call the Driscoll cat,
and Kyle Allen.
So you see what I'm saying? At some point, he's looking over like, because you know where his locker was when he was at. I'm pretty sure he was probably sitting there just looking over there like, damn, what did I go wrong? What did I do? God, what did I do? Hey, you know what God probably look, you know what God probably said to him? You signed the extension.
Exactly. But with that being said, that concludes another installment of Locked On Texans. Sarge, be sure to tell our listeners and our viewers where they can follow you at on all your social media platforms and all your work as well.
You can find me at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end on Twitter and on Instagram. You can subscribe to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast, and you can find all of my work at Rockets, Texans Wire, USA Today under Brian Bearfield, my government name.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody COTYDAVIS _24. And be sure to continue to, do that for your own fan base, because we out here chilling. And be sure to follow my co-host John Hickman on Twitter. You can follow him at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.